Intensity is defined differently by many roller coaster enthusiasts. Some would say an intense coaster is one that's relentless and crazy till the end, while others would describe it as a coaster that features heavy amounts of positive G's and can cause you to gray out. The latter is what I'll be focusing on in today's video. For those of you who remember a while back, I made a video counting down the top 15 most extreme roller coasters I've ridden. If you're looking for batshit crazy coasters in general, then that's your video. Today we're going to be focusing on rides that pull a lot of positive G forces. In other words, have you ever lost your vision on a fast-paced roller coaster? That would be what I'm referring to. These rides provide out-of-body experiences for some, and the coasters high on this list get to the point where they may even result in blackouts. For some reason, coaster fans like myself love this kind of intensity, which I understand isn't something a normal person would be too fond of, but it's something I can't get enough of. Now before we dive into the list, let me just say that for those of you who wish to support the channel, don't be hesitant to drop a like and subscribe down below. Also, a comment regarding your most intense coaster credits would be awesome, as I'll be responding to as many of you guys as I can. But with that being said, let's get into the actual list. These are the top 15 most intense roller coasters I've ever ridden. Number 15, Fury 325 at Carowinds. This is by far the only modern B&M roller coaster you'll be seeing on this list. The way Fury 325 rips through its layout is unlike any other ride of its kind out there, whether it's because of its speed or rather how it maintains its speed. Its low-to-the-ground elements are so fast that they will pelt you with extremely sustained positive forces simultaneously. This goes for the bottom of the drop up into that first overbank turn, the rapid-paced elements thereafter, and the entrance into the treble clef. So even for those of you who like to knock new school B&M for being on the more graceful side, Fury 325 is a completely different story in my eyes. Number 14, Titan at Six Flags Over Texas. Although the vast majority of this coaster's layout is a graceful waste of a hyper in my opinion, there are two moments that make it one of the most intense roller coasters I've been on. These are the two double helixes, the first occurring before the mid-course brake run and the second occurring towards the end of the ride. The reason its sister coaster, Goliath at Six Flags Magic Mountain, doesn't clock in on this list is because it only has one of these two helixes. And again, the rest of the layout just sucks. So while Titan may not be anything too special as a whole, two moments on this ride are so outrageously forceful that it elevates it into the top 15. Number 13, Grover's Alpine Express at Busch Gardens. Riddler's Revenge at Six Flags Magic Mountain. This old school B&M stand-up coaster will cause all the blood in your body to rush to your legs. It's such an intense ride as is, but add in the stand-up vehicles and you've got a whole new dynamic to this ride. Feeling positive G moments when you begin to gray out and feeling your legs numb to the feet simultaneously is crazy. These combined sensations may not be for everyone, that I'll admit, but this coaster's sheer power impresses me as a roller coaster enthusiast. Number 12, Phantom's Revenge at Kennywood. This ride clocks in this high for one particular element. The entire bank turn following the drop into the ravine is what gives Phantom's Revenge an entry into this list. The rest of the coaster is actually fairly graceful aside from the extreme airtime moments at the end of the ride. But grayout wise, there's only one highlight moment on this coaster. Again though, this grayout is so intense and so sustained, which I personally love. It seems like your vision stays gray forever, thus why this was one of the most surprisingly forceful elements I've experienced on any coaster. For only having one element focusing on positive G's, it's up to you if Phantom deserves to be this high on the list, but for me personally, this is a grayout moment that I was taken off guard from. Number 11, Shockwave at Six Flags Over Texas. This coaster is a prime example that Schwarzkopf plus double loops equals insanity. So many roller coaster enthusiasts like to hype up this ride's random airtime burst, but never do I hear the inversions talked about. This coaster's grayout section is crazy because you already start to lose your vision by the end of the first loop, let alone the fact that there's another one right after. This is the case because of how circular the manufacturer built their inversions, which although isn't common today, is a blast to the past for how the loops were in the beginning. Shockwave is a great ode to this history and additionally tries to kill you, which I personally love. Number 10, Alpengeist at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. This huge B&M inverted coaster from 1997 ranks this high for its consistent positive G-force. Few coasters stay intense throughout the majority of its layout, which you've likely discovered from my description of Shockwave, Titan, and Phantom's Revenge. Alpengeist is a true exception, however, as although there's no particular moment that made my jaw drop, the entire first half is raw intensity till the end. The second half, however, is where the ride dwindles out, both in terms of force and just in general. With that being said, the first and longer half of this coaster is so good and so punchy, and that's why Alpengeist ranks just inside of the top 10. Number 9, Aftershock at Silverwood. My first giant inverted boomerang coaster by Vekoma wasn't just intense, but it was extreme. Had I ridden this before I made the previous Extreme Coasters countdown, Aftershock would have for sure been on that list, and this one. I say that just because it feels out of control the whole way through, but it also has crushing positive G's on offer. Even better, you get to experience this twice, once forwards and once backwards. Obviously, depending on where you're sitting, one direction will be more intense than the other, but I find that regardless of this factor, you'll be graying out either way. What direction is going to be crazier is up for you to discover, but man, Aftershock was a genuine surprise when I rode it this past August. Number 8, Montu at Busch Gardens, Tampa. I remember this ride being intense when I rode it in 2018, but rewriting it in 2021 proved this ride's sheer power. I couldn't believe how sustained the initial grayout was on this ride, all the way from the vertical loop to the bottom of the Immelmann. Blasting through a tunnel during these positive G moments can make it feel even more like an acid trip too. In addition to this section at the beginning, one can't forget about the incredible Batwing. The positive Gs that are failed at the bottom of this element are absolutely insane and is the cherry on top to an already snappy inversion. Montu as a whole is great for its awesome inverted layout, but pair that with extreme forces and Tampa's got a real winner on their hands. Number 7, Kumba, also at Busch Gardens, Tampa. Staying in the same park as Montu is a fairly similar ride as it's an old school B&M looper that pulls some dizzying positive Gs. Unlike Montu, I struggle to pinpoint any particular grayout moments, but as with a ride like Alpengeist at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, the consistent intensity on this ride is crazy. In all of this coaster's valleys, even in the tamer second half to an extent, you'll find yourself graying out. This is especially true in some of the inversions, and especially the Cobra Roll, which is one of the best Cobra Rolls out there. Kumba and Montu make for a pretty intense B&M duo at Busch Gardens Tampa, and neither are for the faint of heart. Number 6, Tennessee Tornado at Dollywood. Going in, I was expecting a smooth, graceful aero looper, especially when looking at those jumbo-sized inversions. How could that pull any force, right? But I was wrong. Not that it wasn't smooth, because that was true, but this coaster is far from graceful. First, the gargantuan vertical loop and especially its valley thereafter produces some wild positive G-forces, but following it is a fairly mellow turn to the right, which you'd think would conclude the high-intensity moments. That is, until you have an even crazier moment thereafter with the second loop straight into the Immelmann. As with Shockwave, it's impressive if you begin to gray out at this loop and continue the whole way through the Immelmann. It's just not every day where you have a grayout this pronounced implemented onto a coaster, let alone 2 of them in one ride. Tennessee Tornado is a coaster that I wasn't expecting much from force-wise, but I couldn't be more incorrect. I urge you all not to have the same mistake that I did. Number 5, Canyon Blaster at the Adventure Dome. If you thought Tennessee Tornado's grayouts were wild, prepare for the most insane moment on any aero looping coaster out there. The double loops on Canyon Blaster, for whatever reason, caused me to question my very existence. I don't know if it's because it's more compact than the other aero coasters, or if it's simply because it runs like twice as fast, or maybe it's both. Regardless, I can't believe this moment exists. Now, this is the only true grayout moment on the ride, which may have you questioning why it's in the top 5. This little speed hill gives you airtime, and what's insane about it is your vision is still recovering from the intensity of the loops. And this might be one of the only roller coasters I can think of where you can experience powerful airtime while graying out. It's a strange combination that I think every coaster enthusiast should experience at least once, so for just this reason and this reason only, I would recommend a visit to the Las Vegas area. Number 4, Batman the Ride clones at various Six Flags parks. All of you who have ridden one of these, which I'm guessing is most of you watching, can probably vouch for me here. I have no idea how B&M managed to build an invert so compact that pulls such heavy positive Gs. Not once either, not even twice, but upwards of 3 or 4 times in total. Now what's crazy to me about this is that Batman is such a short ride, and most of it is spent with your vision fuzzy. The whole way though, no matter what park you're at, you will be thrown for a loop quite literally. So any of these Batman clones, again, at whatever park that has one, I'd seriously encourage you to ride. Number 3, Skyrush at Hershey Park. This ride is intense for more reasons than the singular one we're referring to in this video, but in terms of positive G-forces, Skyrush more than checks off the boxes. This ride crushes you with positives in all of its valleys, turns, and helixes. The bottom of the drop will pelt you with forces, and the turn following the first hill will cause you to gray out hardcore. Then the turn after the second airtime hill will produce a similar effect, meaning that's the third standout moment of forcefulness on the whole ride. What's even crazier about these moments too is that the laterals paired with it are ridiculous. Due to Skyrush's restraints, you have no freedom in your lower half and all the freedom in the world in your upper half. This results in some death-defying laterals throughout the ride, including in these high-intensity sections as well. Skyrush is not to be messed with if you're prone to intensity, as there is more that meets the eye than this ride experience. Number 2, Incredible Hulk at Universal's Islands of Adventure. I know some of you will agree with my number 2 spot, as I sometimes see Instagram stories of people nagging Hulk for lacking force. To that, I ask, did we ride the same coaster? Incredible Hulk gave me the second most sustained grail of any coaster I've been on. From the bottom of the drop to the start of the turn after the loop, my vision was fuzzy and I couldn't see a thing. Also, because this ride is a B&M sit-down design, you'll also feel some force in your legs as well. Now, this is the only severe moment of positives on the entire coaster, but it is so ridiculously intense that I don't even mind. It makes this ride worth doing alone and adds to an already exhilarating sequence of elements in the first half. Incredible Hulk is definitely recommended. Number 1, Python Pit at Various Park. Just kidding, the real number 1 is Intimidator 305 at King's Dominion. If you guys remember, this was a top 3 most extreme coaster on the old list, but if I could go back and remake that video, I would move this to number 1. That makes I-305 the undisputed most intense and extreme coaster I've been on, and possibly in the whole world. Remember when I said Hulk featured the second most intense grayout I'd ever experienced? Intimidator 305 is a coaster with the first. This moment can be found at the turn following the drop, which is the biggest WTF moment I've had on any roller coaster. The hill following makes things even more ridiculous, ridiculous, as riders experience floater airtime while they're still actively recovering from their gray out. This is unavoidable no matter what, and you will always be violently losing your vision here even if the ride is running slow. Throughout the rest of the ride, there are plenty more fast-paced turns and transitions that all pull a disgusting amount of positive Gs on you. If intensity is your thing and you're anywhere on the East Coast, know that Kings Dominion in Doswell, Virginia is calling your name. These were the top 15 most intense roller coasters I've ever been on. Let me know down in the comment section if there's any rides you think I missed or what your particular list looks like. Also, if you could do me the favor of liking the video and subscribing down below, that would mean the world to me. Now with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.